Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to be here. And I arrive here after over 40 years in all kinds of security. And I've both worked on the good side and the dark side of the force. And my contention is, to be a good defender, you have to be a really good attacker. And during that 40 years, I've come up with these following observations. Death or defeat, failure, attacks always come from a direction you're not looking. They're always by a mechanism you didn't contemplate, and they're always at a time that's really inconvenient. And so this is our life. This is difficult. And I'm going to give you a prediction now on why we've got it wrong on warfare. So here's the potential for devastation. Land warfare, sea warfare, air. Space has not really been developed yet, but potentially it's huge. But beyond that, cyber war is an even bigger threat. But ultimately, I think the most devastating thing of all is if we lose control of the truth. It will destroy humanity in a way that people cannot imagine. And so biochemical warfare, nuclear warfare, are usually the things that people will cite when you say, what's the biggest threat to mankind? And in actual fact, information, words, the collapse of truth is going to be the single biggest trigger event to more than one thing happening at once. So this is where I start. And we tend to put war into categories, but there is only war. It's total, it's all enveloping, it's not marginalized or quantized. And now, even the American government and military have had to concede they can't protect their own citizens, and nor can our military or our government. And it's up to us, an industry, to do it. So here's the perceived threatscape. This changes a little bit by year, but always number one is the insider threat. It's the biggest single threat. People, we are the threat, and yet what people discuss at conferences mainly is firewalls and malware and stuff that's electronic because it's easier and quantifiable, and we are complicated and really, really very difficult. So it's recognized, but in my view, it's not a priority. And on here, the IoT is missing. And the IoT is a real killer, and I'm going to explain why. So I think we can safely assume that people can't do security. And it's kind of weird that we have this industry that supplies defective goods. None of this stuff works. It's a threat. And it ought to have security built in, and we ought not to have to worry about it. I'm a practicing engineer, an academic, and manager. I don't want to do security. I want to get on with my job, but I have to spend time on security. So the full threatscape is enormous. And it goes from some kid in a bedroom, 13 years old, messing around and stumbling onto a government website, causing mayhem, right through to orchestrated rogue states and criminals who are making billions a year or causing massive disruption. But all of the attacks, just about all of the attacks, can be traced back to some person. So when I'm asked to try and attack an organization, I never use technology. I always go in and play the bumbling old guy who can just about manage a light switch, and some soul will come to my aid because their kindness says, this old person needs a little bit of a hand, and they kindly give me the password. I don't even have to work for it. So beware of older people. We are dangerous. And I am wearing a tie and I'm wearing trousers, but I have to tell you that my jeans are upstairs along with my t-shirt. So I don't wear a hoodie yet, but I'm getting there. So people are wonderfully unaware. They're delightfully innocent. They're terrifically gullible, but best of all, they're kind. And I look for kind people because they always help me to break in. So here's the insider threat. And what you're seeing here, I have actually enacted in a different way. So top left, you can see one young man who's taken exception to what's happening, and he's busily downloading gigabytes of information. And bottom right, you can see him exiting the building quite calmly with the information hidden inside that cube. And it's so very easy. One of my hobbies used to be to see what I could get through airport security carrying. And I used to get through with complete electrical toolkit. And one of the tricks is, if you know anything about magic, is you put a few things in to distract the security people. You plant something for them to find. They're so pleased at finding it and remonstrating with you that they stop looking, basically. Anyway, after a series of gotchas where I was put up against a wall, I've stopped doing it. So here's a different view. This is, again, not an individual, but this is a group threat. So behavioral analysis is a tool we don't use, and we've got to. It's so easy to look at somebody and say, well, they don't normally come in the morning and download 20 gigabytes. What the heck is happening here? But we don't do that. And on the group side, in China, they're now watching everybody on many levels. And of course, if you go to any respectable casino, the whole gaming table is observed, and they're looking for people who are cheating. So the technology exists to do this, but it's a big step towards some 1984 dystopian future that I don't want to live in. And so there are some social aspects to this that we've got to worry about. So here now is another big challenge, the IoT. By the way, the vast majority of things on the Internet of Things will never connect to the Internet. The vast majority of things will talk to each other and never ever go on a big network. And you have to think about that. So if you think about boxes on pallets in containers, you're not going to put 5G on that. They're going to talk to each other. Eventually one of them will talk to a hub and it may get online. But they present a massive increase in the attack surface. And we're wide open. And China makes all the the biggest fraction of all this stuff, and it's either got no security on it or questionable security. And it's difficult when you get a piece of kit to find where it was made. So many years ago, I was involved with Cisco, and they had hit an alarming situation where about 22% of all the Cisco kit out there had been pirated. And some of it was so good, they couldn't tell whether it was theirs or not. So you say, well, where was this laptop made? China. Where were the chips made? Don't know. Where was the software written? Don't know. Is it secure? Nope. And so every device we've got is inherently insecure, but we don't think like that. So the autoimmunity bit is, the analogy is you have a sneeze, I catch it, my autoimmunity system kicks in, either protects me or I get what you've got. The same analogy works with all our devices. Right now my mobile phone is scanning all of yours and it's looking for a victim because it's got malware on it and it's trying to impregnate as many devices as possible. This thing goes out exponentially. It's just like an epidemic. It becomes very rapidly a pandemic. So what we've got to have is devices out here that are looking for this attack, isolate it and put my